Hello friends, today we will discuss an important current affairs issue, that is the debate on freebies. This is a more pertinent and relevant issue, and it is also a most misconstrued issue. This issue has recently started with the remarks made by the Honorable Prime Minister, but earlier also we have debated this issue recently when 15th Finance Commission terms of reference are framed. The 15th Finance Commission terms of reference mentioned about discouraging the populistic measures. And recently Prime Minister has made a remarks on this revadi culture, that is a term which denotes a sweet normally distributes in the northern India during festivals, but that indicates like giving something at free of cost, giving something at free of charge. And this is something against the growth pattern of the country. We should move out of this culture. Later, a public interest litigation was filed in the Supreme Court to discuss about these freebies. Now the ball is in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is discussing this issue. Supreme Court has already opinion that government should constitute a committee consisting of Reserve Bank of India, Finance Commission, Election Commission, Niti Aayog, Union of India, but Election Commission don't want to join it, but they want to constitute a committee, but anyhow that committee has not constituted yet. But this issue is very, very important. This issue is important not just because Prime Minister has made a remark or there is a PIL in Supreme Court or Finance Commission has made TOR. Recently there is another important issue. In the 2022 June, Reserve Bank of India has released a report on the financial conditions of the states, and some of the states are performing worse in their fiscal front. Their total debt to gross state domestic product, GSDP, is increasing, and for some states it's alarmingly more than 50%. Some states are crossed 30%, but ideally it should be at 20%. And it is not only that, the states are resorting to taking the loans in an unauthorized way, because states have a complete right to take the loans within the prescribed limit, but they are resorting to some unauthorized ways to take the loans. That is how the debt and GSDP ratio is increasing for some states. So some states facing serious economic crisis, and moreover it has its own impact on the whole process of democracy. But anyhow, in this today's class we'll try to discuss what is this freebies, why freebies are necessary, is there any word called freebies in our statute or in our constitution, then what is the difference between this freebie and welfare, and who can decide which one is a freebie and which one is a welfare, what is the role of the state, what are the advantages, disadvantages, and the future course of action that we'll discuss in this video. Normally the word freebie, something gives at the free of charge. You are not paying anything for that, but you are getting at the free of cost. There are many things in our Indian political system, but you coined with a different name, but something you are giving at free of charge. Let you call it as freebie, let you call it as subsidy, let you call it as incentive, let you call it as a write-off, let you call it as waiver, let you call any name. You can name anything, but these are all indicates something you are giving at free of charge. But why you are calling something as subsidy, something as a freebie, something as incentive, something as written off? Yes, based on the purpose we are doing it, but the whole theme is same. Something we are giving at free of charge to somebody in our country. Now the question is, why you need to give something free of cost to the people? Why you need to give? Because when it comes to the role of a state, we must understand the role of the state. State is having lot of responsibilities, and in discharging its responsibilities, sometimes it is giving these freebies, or sometimes they are giving these subsidies. The state is not just to administer alone, but the state is having some socio-economic responsibilities to perform. First of all, we are electing the government to meet our common needs. So whatever all common requirements, so for that purpose state is there. And state collect the taxes and spends for the well-being of society, and it provides the basic physical and social infrastructure. Let it be roads, let it be transportation, let it be electricity, let it be drinking water, let it be health, let it be education. And it acts as a facilitator to the wealth creators, because people want to create wealth in a society. Now the state must facilitate for them to create the wealth, and more important, to bridge the inequalities in the society. This is a very important function of the state, to bridge the inequalities in the society, focus on backward sections, give a handhold to the backward section so that they can move forward. So these are all the roles of these are the role of a state. Did our constitution mention anything about this? Yes, our constitution mentioned about some aspects. Anyway, government as a legitimate sovereign body, it will perform, it will collect the taxes, it will spend, it will take care about the common needs, and it provide the infrastructure. But when it comes to this fifth point, recall welfare, constitution has made so specific reference to this welfare agenda. In the directive principles of state policy, the article 38 is specifically mentioned about this welfareism. Article 38 specifically mentions about it. The state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people by securing and protecting the social order. It's a directive to the government by the Constitution of India to provide welfare. When I say welfare, again you are giving it free of cost. You are not charging anything from them. And even if you are looking into fundamental rights, I'll tell you Article 15(3), it is one of the fundamental right. And in this fundamental right, Constitution clearly says that the state can make certain special provisions for the development of women and children. And Article 21, it's right to life and personal liberty. And Supreme Court has given a broader interpretation to this Article 21 by mentioning like right to shelter, right to livelihood, right to health is part of right to life and personal liberty. So the state must provide it. That is how the responsibility has lies on the government to provide the right to shelter, right to livelihood, and right to health. And 21A, it is about the right to education, free and compulsory education to the children of below 14 years. Again, the state must provide it free of cost, because you recognized it as the fundamental right. You must provide it. And even Article 43 also mentioning about some welfareism related to promotion of cottage industries. It is about the wages, it is about the working conditions they mentioned. So our constitution had made so explicit related to welfare of certain sections. That is also the responsibility of the state. And based on these provisions of the constitution, Government of India, since its independence, come up with lot of schemes, lot of policies. Let it be midday meal scheme, for example, let it be National Health Mission, let it be Ayushman Bharat, let it be MG Narega, let it be National Food Security Act. Like there are many schemes, many policies. So the government is giving something benefit to the people without any charge. On the other hand, the government is also giving some sort of incentives to the industrialists, to the entrepreneurs, to MSMEs, to exporters, to local industries, to manufacturing industries. So the government is also providing some government is also providing some sort of benefits. So in a state, that means in a well established democracy, and it's not only in democracy, in other form of governments also, the state is having a dual role to take care about the backward sections and also to take care about the wealth creators. That is how governments are balancing. And in a socialist state where state itself is a producer, that is the state giving huge incentive for themselves, because you are a state producing company. But when private people are producing it, the state is also providing some incentives. But this is how you need to understand the overall role of a state. And once you understand the role of the state, then we'll come to the debate of freebies. Normally the state is obliged to provide some sort of benefits, whether you call it as welfare, whether you call it as subsidy, whether you call it as incentive, whether you call it as welfare scheme, whatever you do, whatever you call. But state is obliged to provide some benefits to the people. And this is where exactly this is where the topic has completely misconstrued. What we can give at free of cost, what we cannot give at the free of cost. And everyone is accepted on certain norms, like some aspects must be given at a subsidized rate or at a free of cost. There is no question. From economists to sociologists to different political parties to intellectuals to Supreme Court to, so everyone is accepting on that. Let it suppose free education, free health, social security to the age-old people, that means to the senior citizens, because they have contributed so much to the country. Now at the age of, after 60, certainly they are depending on somebody, so the state must take care about them. And when it comes to the widow pensions, like because of some socio-economic conditions in the country, many people are arguing like there is no much debate on some items. There is no much debate on some services like health, education, social security, like some are there. So there is no debate on this. Everyone is accepting. When it comes to the others, then the debate started. So the debate is not about giving something free, but the debate is about why you are giving some items or some services as free. They should be given free of cost or at a subsidized rate, but you should not give. Why you should not give it? Why you should not give it? Because the freebie or the subsidy which you are announcing is not a free one, but it is coming up with lot of cost. And it is burdening the state finances. It is burdening the state finances. That is why we are arguing like, no, some things which are not relevant much, we should not provide it. But some people wanted to give this even if it burdens the state. Because they are arguing, like government is giving a lot of subsidies to the industries. Lot of people have taken the loans from the government and they are not repaying it. And lot of industrialists are getting this taxes subsidy. So what is wrong if you give these services, because they are also going to benefit the people. So when you are giving the benefit there, you should also give the benefit here. That is the argument. That is the reason why there is a serious question on whether you should consider, apart from these basic things, as a part of freebie or as a part of welfare. You must understand this point clearly. Why actually we are debating? So the debate is because of these two aspects. One is non-essential items, second one is giving to the some industries, they are not repaying it back. This is the most argument because they are putting the same argument. Now I will come to this, which should be given, which should not be given, which should be free, which should not be free, which is coming up with cost, which is not coming up with the cost, that I will explain now. Now when you are providing something free because you are having some responsibility, you should be very careful. You should be very careful. Because all freebies are not good, all freebies are not bad. But today some people are arguing like you should make a clear-cut division between the welfare and freebie. Welfare and freebie. But is it really possible to do it? Is it really possible to do it? There is an agreement on some items like you should be given free because it's not a free, it's a welfare, it is going to create the future assets. Take the case of education, it creates the human being, it creates the human resource. Take the case of the Food Security Act, it creates the nutrition. Take the case of free health facilities, it will build again a good human resource. So there is no point, because there is no point of argument in that because they are good freebies. But some are bad. Why some are bad? Because they are impacting the finances so severely. The output or the gain is not up to the mark. Not up to the mark. Suppose I will give an example. Nowadays we are distributing, let it be saris, we are distributing some mixies, we are distributing some cookers. So these are all part of these unwanted freebies where the output is very minimal. Output is very minimal. You can't argue like, sir, if you give the pressure cooker and they don't consume much this fuel wood because it will cook easily so that it will save the energy. Yes, there is an argument, there is some output is there, but is that output is matching with the input that what we are spending? That is very, very important. And in some cases there is no proper clarity that whether it should be considered it as a freebie or not. And our Chief Justice of India has made a comment, something which urban people consider as a freebie may not be a freebie for rural people. Let it be giving an iron box to the dhobi in the village area is not a freebie because it creates livelihood for him. Giving a shaving kit for a barber is not a freebie, it creates the livelihood for him. So the perception is something vary from section to section, context to context, person to person, area to area. But still some people are having a strong belief that something should not be given free at all. Something should be given free, there is no problem. But there is a grey area, that is where the whole debate is happening. Now when you are announcing these freebies, people are good at accepting it, but ultimately it is burdening the state. So we must understand the financial burden that the state is going to incur because freebie is not at free of cost. So when you are deciding, there is no clear-cut parameter to decide, but still when you are deciding, at least you can see whether it is going to create a human resources. First point, you need to understand whether the free thing which you are going to create, whether it will creating the human resources or whether it increases the livelihood security, or whether it will improve the incomes of the farm, improves income and creation of wealth, and whether it promote the growth, and multiply that money, multiplying of money. So at least on these parameters you can come to an agreement, you can at least say which one is good and which one is bad. So it should create a human resource, it should provide livelihood security, it should improve the income level or wealth of the country, and it should promote the growth, and also it should multiply the money which you are giving. Then you can say like they are acceptable. But again, who has to codify it? Based on this, you should be given this, you should not be given this. So that is again still a debate. And I'll come to that, how you can segregate. Can we really segregate it or not? If you don't segregate, then how will you solve this problem? But still some difficulty is there. But at least you can consider these parameters as a broader parameters to consider it as a freebie or whether it is a welfare or not. Welfare is absolutely necessary. Welfare should promote the growth, welfare should promote the human resources, welfare should promote the livelihood security. But something you should not give free at the cost of finances of the state, and thereby it reduces the potential of the state. So this is a broader understanding that everyone is accepting. But how will you decide it? That I will come to a little bit later. But again, there is an interesting debate related to this timing of freebies. Timing of freebies, because the whole issue now is revolving around the timing. Like lot of political parties are announcing, I am talking about specifically political parties. Lot of political parties are announcing promises that they will offer this. They will bring this scheme, they will bring this thing at free of cost or at a subsidized cost, that they are announcing. That is one aspect. So announcing during election. Second one, normally after government came to power, some governments will devise some policies through which you will give subsidy or something at a free of charge to the people for their socio-economic upliftment. So during normal times, suppose take the case of Ujjwala. So they came to government and they tried to implement it because it will protect the health of the women and also it reduces the pollution level. So that is how we have done. Take the case of Swachh Bharat. There are health implications, dignity aspects. So we have implemented when they come to power. Third one is during economic crisis. So these are the three different aspects. See, during the economic crisis, you must give the freebies. Take the case of COVID-19. People don't have the employment, people have lost the employment, people don't have any savings. It's very difficult for them to survive. Okay, government has given some money, it's a free dole out. Government has given some money, government distributing the food grains, government is providing the health facilities at free of cost, government is giving the free vaccine. So during the economic crisis time or during any health crisis time, it is obvious, because during the economic crisis time normally there is no demand. Then how will you create the demand in the economy? The government should pump the money. So giving the dole outs in terms of cash or in terms of some items during the crisis is acceptable. Perhaps it will help the economy to revive. During the great debate time, government of United States of America done that. During the East Asian crisis, the East Asian countries did that, and in India, in America and India across the world, they have did during the 2008 financial crisis, and during the COVID-19 we have done. So there is no question during the crisis. Perhaps it will boost the economy, it will kickstart the economy. Now I will come to during the normal time. When everything is going well, you should not announce something free without thinking the returns of that spending. Suppose if it really having the potential to create more growth or more output, then there is no problem. But when goods and services are at a constant level in the economy, if you try to pump more money into the economy, it will be an inflationary. It will create lot of inflation and it suffers the poor again, because unnecessarily you are pumping the money into the economy. So during the normal time, it's not good until and unless it is having some specific objective, and until and unless it is having a potential to create a human resource or create a livelihood security or to provide more output or to promote the growth, you should not do it. And something more dangerous is this one, during the elections. It is more dangerous. It's not only impacts the economy of the country, but it also completely trivializes the whole democratic system. Whole democratic system will be at question. And now the debate is happening here. So during the election process, there should not be freebies. It's not only during the elections, even in the normal times also there should not be a freebies until and unless if they are fitting in that bracket. And during the economic crisis, obviously it is important. So when you are giving the freebies, what type of free thing that you are giving, they are all important. So it's not something you can't say like you should not give something free or you should give something free at all the times. No, it's based on the timing and it's based on the bracket of items which you are providing. Based on that we can. It's all subjective. Completely you can't say like you should only give this, you should not give this at all. After COVID-19, Government of India under Swanidhi scheme, they are giving the loans to the street vendors. Maybe they will repay, but some loss may occur to the government if someone, because of any reason, if they are not able to pay. But anyhow, that is required in this context. But during the normal time, you should not go for that. Government of India announced an employment, this emergency credit line guarantee scheme for MSMEs. During the normal time, it's not important, but during the crisis time, it is important. So that means there is a context, you must understand the context. And without context, it's very difficult to segregate which one is good and which one is bad. And I'll come to this election process. Yes, this is much more dangerous. Much more dangerous. Whatever the argument that you may put, but still it will completely perils the whole democratic system. It will question the democratic system. Anyway, I'll come to that little bit late. But you must understand the timing. So when you can give and when you cannot give. Now, once you distinguish this freebies and also you understood about the timing, now I will come to the advantages and disadvantages of these freebies or the welfare schemes. Because some people, they don't want to call freebie as a welfare scheme or welfare scheme as a freebie. But I already said there is no clear-cut definition to freebie or welfare. This is something given at free, this is something given at free. But which we consider as productive, that you are classifying it as welfare, which is not productive, we are considering it as a freebie. But that is our own definition. But whenever, okay, something when you are giving free, what are the advantages of that? The advantage is something, if they fit in that bracket of items which I have given, definitely it bridges the gap between rich and poor to some extent, bridges the gap, and it will uplift the backward sections. It will uplift the backward sections and it promote the human development through their education, health and other skill set. And also it will enable them to move in the right direction. It enable the people to move in the right direction, and it will incentivize the people to achieve their targets, and the government providing handhold to support them in times of distress. So these are all the advantages, these are all required, because some people are not accessible to the health, not accessible to the education, they don't know how to start a business, they don't know how to connect to the market. Yes, required. It will bridge the gap and it will help the backward section and downtrodden section, and it promotes the human development. It enables the people to move in the right direction, and also it will incentivize the people to achieve their targets. But there are disadvantages also. Again, when I say disadvantages, it's all depending on the same aspect will not create disadvantage. The other aspects of the so-called welfare or freebie will impact negatively. But the positive aspects which we are talking about, health, education, some social security, is certainly going to help the people. Now, I will come to these disadvantages. Now, this disadvantage is, I am categorizing these disadvantages into two. First thing is, we are discussing this whole debate on it will impact the finances. But I am dividing it into two. So as long as state finances able to withstand the pressure of these freebies, because I already told you freebie is not a freebie, you need to pay it. Who will pay? People will pay. But anyhow, as long as the state finances withstand that pressure, there is no impact on finances. But as long as the state don't withstand that pressure, then it creates another problem. When state withstand that pressure and when the state don't withstand that pressure. But some people argue that even if it withstand also, that culture is not good, because even today it may be very good for you, but tomorrow it may not be that much good. Tomorrow it will completely destroy you. That culture itself is not good. That is why you call it as freebie culture. You need to come out of that culture. Okay, today some people need something. Yes, you need to provide it, but you should not ask them to, or you should not allow them to depend on you every time. That's not good. So even though whether the state is withstanding the pressure of the state finances are withstanding the pressure of these freebies, or they are not withstanding, that culture is not good. But for a time being, because of this existing socio-economic inequalities, yes, in some aspects they are acceptable. Now, okay, just assume they are withstanding, so state finance is not affecting, then can you promote it? Can you promote it? First of all, that culture will impact. That culture will impact the future, even though it won't impact the state finances, because some states are good at arguing like, no, my state is doing good, what is wrong with me? But that culture is bad. Second one is, you will make the people to completely depending on the state. You will make the people to completely depending on the state, and because of that, the state is becoming more stronger. The state is becoming more stronger. If the state is becoming more stronger means, then the democracy is weakening. Because for our regular day-to-day survival, we are depending on the state, and because of that, state is considered like it is a supreme. Anyhow, state is having its own legitimacy. It has its own sovereignty, but it will impact the democracy. That is all you need to understand. And excess freebies will certainly impact the innovativeness of the people. Innovativeness. Yes, innovativeness in the sense, innovative of a rickshaw puller, innovative of a daily wage laborer, innovativeness of a farmer, innovativeness of a household worker, innovativeness of a household maid, innovativeness of, let it be a normal street vendor. Everyone's innovativeness will certainly impact if your freebies crosses an excess point. That we must understand. So the point is, even the state is withstanding the pressure, it is having its own impacts. Suppose just assume the state don't withstand, then the impacts are much more severe. Yes, these three all come here, and along with these three, you will have some other impacts also, because if the state finances don't support, it will increase the debt burden. It will increase the debt burden, and if the debt is increasing means the interest burden increases, then every year you need to pay more interest, and your future generations are working, and the majority amount of the taxes which they are going to pay, you will use it for the interest payment of earlier loans. This is something very bad. You are taking a loan and you are passing that burden to the future generations. You should create a wealth and you should pass on the wealth to the future generation, but you are doing opposite. This is something not acceptable. You should not burden the future generation with your present debt. And I already told you, this freebies is not at free of cost. Then how they will collect the, how they will finance that freebies? Through the taxes. And most of the time the states are announcing this. Union is also announcing to some extent, but in some state it is very severe. Do you think that state will collect the direct taxes? No, they will collect only indirect taxes. That means the burden of these taxes will be equally levied on again all the people, irrespective of poor and rich. It is not something you are collecting from wealthy person and you are giving it to the poor. That's not you are doing. You are giving on one hand and you are taking on another hand because you are collecting through the taxes. Again, it will burden the people because more taxes they have to pay. And next, the another important aspect is, most of the revenues, when you try to spend it on giving these free dole outs, that means you are spending more amount of money on revenue account of the spending rather capital account. Because capital expenditure is very, very important. Because the money which you are going to spend it on the freebies is not that productive, is not going to be that useful. But if you create it on a capital expenditure, yes, certainly that creates the asset, and that asset is having a capacity to generate more revenue and more employment, and we can create the infrastructure. Infrastructure is a very, 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 very important aspect, because through the infrastructure human being will realize its value. I am very knowledgeable person, I have lot of talent, but unfortunately there is no proper road for me to go to the neighboring village and to do the work. And I am an innovative person, I have some knowledge, but there is no power in my house to do that job. And I am a good farmer, I can produce a very effective thing, but there is no proper market, there is no proper cold chain facility. So you must understand this. So that means creation of infrastructure, whether it is physical or social, again creation of schools, residential welfare schools, hospitals, yes, they are all helpful, they are all going to create the future resources. And unfortunately when you spend more, the whole money is diverted into this revenue account, which is not productive at all. And that will certainly impact the growth. That will certainly impact the growth, because you are not creating, you are not investing money on potential items or the productive item. That means you yourself undermining your growth, you yourself undermining your own ability. So it impacts the growth, and it will increase the revenue expenditure, it increases the debt burden, it increases the interest payment, it increases the interest payment. And if there is no scope for the growth, if there is no scope for the growth, again the losers are the weaker sections. The losers are weaker sections. That will widens the inequality, because the modern day economics believes that growth alone can lift the people out of poverty. Growth alone can reduce the inequalities. Growth should be there, growth should be reached to the people, growth should be inclusive, growth should be sustainable. But if that growth itself is stopped because of our own fiscal limitations, then that will again impact the poor people. That we must understand. Some people argue like, no, when you are arguing, let it be bicycle to the school going women, or let it be something to the woman. Yes, there are some aspects which are acceptable, we need, there is no doubt on that. But again, when you are giving, see, giving a free saree, how can you substantiate? And giving some 5 to 10 lakh rupees per a family to start a business, to what extent you will substantiate? See, whoever want to do the business, if you give a subsidized loan, yes, there is an argument. You can see their proposal and you can see whether that unit is economically viable or not. In that way you can. See, the point is, you can't argue like, as a state I am having the capacity, I am having an every right. But the point is, you have an every right, but you can spend that money in much more productive ways. Ultimately, how it is going to burden your finances, what is the output to input ratio, how much you are getting, what is the efficiency of that every rupee that you are spending is very, very important, because it is public money. Public money should be utilized for the common good of the public, but not to the benefit of few individuals, that too which is not going to create any future assets. And few individuals, if they are backward and if you are spending it in a better way, no one will object, because tomorrow they are going to become the resource, and that is going to again contribute to the society. So we must understand the advantages and disadvantages. When it comes to the disadvantages, how it impact the democracy and how it impact this. And apart from that, there is one major aspect is, if political parties especially allowed to announce these freebies during the election process, then those who don't want to announce it, or those who are not in a position to announce it, that will lead to something a gross discrimination in contesting the election. Suppose assume a social activist, he wants to do some service to the society and he has entered into politics. He knows that these freebies cannot solve the problem and he don't want to announce it, or he don't have that capacity to announce it. He is not interested in that. And if someone is allowed to announce whatever the thing they want, is it not creating the inequality? Is it a level playing field to contest the election? And moreover, when people started voting based on freebies, but not based on who should be my leader, then that will completely undermine the democratic process. Actually, people is having a power in terms of vote. They should exercise it very diligently. They should exercise it very promptly. But unfortunately, if the decision is if the decisioning power becomes the purchased commodity, then ultimately whoever is having the money, whoever is having an ability to announce the things, that means those people will come to the power. You must understand it. And it leads to the crony capitalism. Suppose a political party announces something, yes, they are even started distributing during the election something, and that Election Commission of India should stop it, and also they are going to announce something. Suppose just assume I wanted to give free washing machines to everyone, then I will try to sign a contract with washing machine, illegal contract with a washing machine company, that you supply washing machine to me, I will give some benefit to you. So the point is, this will lead to crony capitalism, a bad nexus between the politicians and some business people. So that undermines again the democratic system. So the argument is on economy front is one thing, but the argument on the democratic front, the spirit of democracy, the sanctity of democratic system, the way how the people are going to vote, how you are making a vote as a commodity, is something very bad. And it will question the existing system. The existence of system itself is questionable because of this. That is what we need to understand. So these are the advantages and disadvantages. Now I will come to an important aspect. Sir, when it comes to these incentives to the industries, is it not a freebie? Yes. If government is something giving at a free of cost to anyone, it is a free. Whether you call subsidy, whether you call welfare, it's free of cost. But sir, some NPAs are rising, people are taking the loan, they are not paying, people are taking the loan, they are moving away, moving out of the country, and some big businesses are, yes, they are paying lot of, they are taking lot of loans and they are not repaying it. Is it not like a freebie that government is giving to some big businesses? If the government involves in that, it is also wrong. No one is substantiating. Crony capitalism should not be there. NPA should be resolved. You need to attach the assets. You need to bring back the people who have fled the country. When you are giving the loan, you should maintain due diligence. You should check it proper. But at the same time, the state is having a responsibility to incentivize the wealth creators, because that is how you can create more wealth and you can create more employment. It should not be a person to X or Y or Z. Whoever is having that capacity, whether it is MSME, whether it is startup, whether it is a tribal woman, whether it is a scheduled caste woman, whether it is a farmer, anyone should be accessible to that incentives, provided that if it is having a potential to create much more amount of revenue and if it promotes the growth, certainly we need. But when it comes to these non-performing assets, or when it comes to the other things, yes, it is not at all acceptable to anybody. And that cronyism should not be accepted at all. And before government try to attack on these freebies, it also must address this cronyism. You are taking the loan but you are not repaying it. So it is also subsidizing by the government, because they are taking the loan from the public sector banks. So that is also we need to address. Not that, but here they are allowing it, so you should also allow this. That will completely destroy the economy. See, take the case of NPS. How much NPS are there? 15% maximum I can give. That means of the 100 rupees, almost 85 rupees are promptly paid. 15% is not paid promptly. Yes, there are some reasons, there are genuine business risks. But wherever there is a willful defaulter, definitely we must make it so, we must make the law so strong and we must punish them. There is no doubt. But this 15% of NPA is not an excuse to say that no, you are giving lot of benefit to them, you should also give the benefit to no. You can't compare this bad thing on both the level. You can't say that. So the point is, yes, we need to improve here, and you need to also improve on the other front. One bad thing cannot substantiate the another bad decision. That is something, one wrong cannot make another wrong right. You should understand it. Okay. So once you understand this NPA debate and all, now what could be the future policy or future decision on these freebies? Because Supreme Court has already said will constitute a committee. Supreme Court said will constitute a committee, but government is not interested, political parties on other side. But some people are seriously questioning. I'll mention two aspects here, because with respect to judiciary, see, one thing is judiciary is clearly saying like, I am not bringing a judicial legislation, it's not my duty, but I am only working on this background paper. See, ultimately in a democracy, people decides, and it is between people and people representative. But the only thing, parliament is going to make a law, but I am just preparing the background paper. If at all a law has to be passed, on what basis we should bring a law, that is only we are doing. That is what Supreme Court said. Second one is something very serious, like people are asking the rationale behind the intervention of the judiciary into this. After all, public money is related to public and the government, and the legislature is there to question, and people will teach a lesson after 5 years. Why judiciary is intervening? Is there anyone is intervening into judicial finances? Is there anyone is asking how judiciary is spending their own money? This is how they are questioning it. But when it comes to the finances, obviously judiciary is having no oversight until and unless it leads to the violation of the law. If it is not a violation of the law, how prudently government should spend the money is definitely the realm, it definitely comes under the executive and legislature, but not the judiciary. There is no question on that. But the another important aspect is when it comes to the sanctity of electoral process, yes, certainly judiciary need to intervene. Because here it's not only about the finances of the state, but it is about the sanctity of the whole election process. It questioning the system of democracy itself. Certainly judiciary need to intervene. So that is how you need to understand the judicial intervention. You need to understand. Next, now what could be done? First one, some people are arguing that this freebies and welfare, there should be a clear-cut segregation. But I don't think so it's possible to do that. Because you can't list it down. The state can do anything based on their own aspect. That is why some people are suggesting that don't try to focus more on this political aspect, because it may not be possible to solve in that, because lot of people try to question, because people may question like it is between the government and the people. If the people are interested to take and if the people are interested to vote, then what will you do? It is a democracy, it's the people wish. But some people argue like, no, in a democracy, if the people, democracy should not lead to mobocracy. If the mob decides something which is irrelevant, irrational, then you can't go with that. But anyhow, but I can certainly tell you, like the freebies during the election time should be regulated. I can't say you can stop, but should be regulated. How can you regulate? Because it's all political parties. You can ask them that. When you are announcing something, you should also come up with a resource mobilization plan. How you are going to collect this money? Just mention it. How will you pay this money? Will you collect more taxes? Will you take more loan? Yes. If you don't have an idea about the state finances, you don't have a right to announce the freebies. Even in a democracy, even you have a right to contest the election. But you should have that, you should be clear about the resource mobilization. That you make it compulsory. And second one is, there should be a general debate among the people which should be accepted and which should not be accepted. Anyhow, people are going to accept everything. People are going to accept everything, whatever you give. But at least the general debate among the people may lead to consensus among the political parties that no, we should not offer this, we should offer this. So the debate must happen, whether it will lead to the final result or not, but the debate will, that creating awareness among, creating an awareness, the debate create the awareness among the people, certainly it will become the agenda for the political parties. See, if you see nowadays the education and health become the agenda for electoral politics. Earlier no one has bothered about, but now infrastructure has become the agenda of the election. Why? Because we are debating it, we are understanding the importance of that. Yes, the debate should happen. But moreover, many people are arguing like, instead of creating this awareness and this resource mobilization plan is one aspect, but there should be a union law to bring the financial discipline in the state, like Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act. Yes, the existing Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act is also focusing on fiscal discipline, but you should make so explicit both by bringing on budget borrowing, off budget borrowing, and you should make it clear that no state should cross revenue expenditure beyond a particular point. If that is the case, they are not allowed to get the loans, and this indirect route of extra budgetary borrowing must be curtailed. Otherwise, it's not possible. You may argue like welfare, you may argue for backwardness, you may argue for inequality, but you don't have certainly any right to burden the future generations, and you must put that limit. And the Finance Commission, yes, certainly have a role in this, because the state is not getting the whole resources from its own tax, it is also getting from the union, and it is the Finance Commission which will distribute the resources to the states. And in the 15th Finance Commission terms of reference, they also made a mention, but that lead to the political conflict. But anyhow, that Finance Commission should be bestowed with some sort of responsibility to look after with doleouts. To look after with doleouts. And the another important thing is, before you do all these things, yes, this cronyism and debt defaults must be checked. And there should be some transparency when you are announcing some incentives. Incentives are necessary, but there should be some transparency, there should be proper discipline, there should be proper checkouts. And moreover, there was a Supreme Court judgment, we need to review it. Already Supreme Court has taken it up. Yes, Subramanian Balaji versus State of Tamil Nadu. In the year 2013, Supreme Court said that giving these freebies or announcing these freebies by, announcing the freebies by the political parties during the election process not comes under the corrupt practices of election, or it not comes under the electoral corrupt practices. Because of that, it has something like a green signal to the political parties to announce anything. No, this should be reviewed, and yes, there should be a proper metric to decide or to announce it as a welfare measure during the election process, and whether they can do it or not. But the only thing is this resource mobilization and the regulation through a legislation and Finance Commission and awareness and debate and avoiding cronyism and this loan defaults must be checked. Then you can fight this whole issue. This is something. And if you're looking into Reserve Bank of India's recent annual report on state finances, they said like state finances, a risk analysis, that is the title of that report. And they said like, take the case of Punjab, it is the debt to GSDP ratio crossed 53%, Bihar 38%, Kerala 37%, UP 32%, West Bengal 34%, Andhra Pradesh 32%. This is how their debt levels are increasing. That is not at all good. That is not at all good. And whenever you are announcing, it should be targeted. It should be targeted to the targeted sections, to the targeted items. Again, some people say like you should not give the materials, you should give only institutional support. But sometimes some material also creates some social security and livelihood security, but I cannot decide on whether it should be a material or an institution. But certainly you must select the grassroots, that means a targeted section, a targeted item should promote growth and it should be create some sort of infrastructure, and it should be the over well-being of the people, and it should also strengthen our financial resources. It must contribute to the society in turn, and try to do the pilot exercises and announce it, and it must promote the human development, it must protect the social security of the people. So this is how you need to do, but we should not simply misconstrue the whole issue. Unfortunately, that issue has taken a different turn. We are not against something, but if you don't follow, if you don't distinguish, then the culture of freebies which you are talking about, this will not lead to a prosperity, but it will become a quick passport to the financial disaster. That is what the 15th Finance Commission Chairman N.K. Singh has said. So the freebie culture is not a road to the prosperity, but a quick passport to the fiscal disaster. And if you want to create an employment, and if you want to reduce the inequalities, the only thing is to provide the employment. Employment is possible only to the growth. And whichever your activities are promoted to the growth without burdening your finances, that model is acceptable to all. But if something you are giving it free which is not leading to the growth, moreover it will question the democratic system, that is not at all good. Let us hope that maybe the Supreme Court or the governments and different political parties come up with a concrete agenda, and maybe the people will try to understand the relevance of these freebies and the positives and negatives of the freebies, and let the country debate it, and once we come up with a concrete proposal, maybe it saves the country from this fiscal disaster, and also it promotes more growth. Thank you.
Amrita IAS Academy.